Hello again, and on the UK edition this week we'll look at some local reflections of huge problems back in India and Pakistan. A great deal of Kashmir politics, South Asia politics plays out here in Britain and in Europe. We now see an expression by people from Baluchistan, even if there isn't a huge Balochi population here in Britain. Some do say that talk of Baloch protests over abuses is just some Indian attempt to answer Pakistan on Kashmir, to deflect attention from Kashmir. But there is a real problem out there. Human Rights Watch has said that violations in Baluchistan have reached epidemic levels. The US government has spoken of widespread abuses, and now Balochis in Britain have something to say.
Go back, China! Go back, China!
A group of Balochis protested outside the Chinese embassy in London this week. The protest was against denial of rights to them in Pakistan and the creation of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which they say encroaches on their resources and rights. They were led by the former ruler of Baluchistan, now in exile in London, and by Baloch women leaders.
As far as my unique position is concerned, my forefathers have been the rulers of Baluchistan. And before coming to Britain, I asked for a jirga, which is a tribal elders meeting. They gave me the authority to challenge Pakistan's occupation in the international court, and whatever human rights violations that are taking place in Baluchistan since 2002, and especially after the death of Nawab Akbar Bukti. And that is why I am outside the country and trying to get support.
We aim to give a voice to Baloch women worldwide in highlighting the mass human rights violations that are taking place in Baluchistan at present. We have currently gathered outside the Chinese embassy because we are extremely worried about the development of CPEC. Effectively, what we're going to see is a China-Pakistan economic corridor of terror, one in which it is estimated that $55 billion are going to be invested into, and it's going to create and update rail lines across the breadth of Pakistan into Jammu and Kashmir, which is of course disputed territory.
The Balochis expressed strong appreciation for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's intervention on their behalf.
So grateful for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's interventions and his speaking on our behalf at the United Nations. India has made such a huge difference to what is really, it's amounting to a systematic, calculated ethnic cleansing of an entire people. Now, the Islamic, what we should call caliphate of Pakistan, has harbored terrorists for far too long. The United States, as we know now, is actually putting through a bill as proposed by senators there, Rohrabacher and Ted Poe, that they should effectively be designated a terrorist state.
Demonstrators sought to raise their voice after they said their voices have not been heard for too long.
We are here, like as you can see, so many people, they have their own writings in their hands. As you can read, that they are talking about their rights. It's been like asked for a long time, ages, and now they're using our land, misusing in fact our land for China. So this is what we are here to stop them doing and stop them misusing us.
Basically, we are here, as you are aware about Baluchistan situation. We are an occupied country. China have no right to go to an occupied country and investigate and is gonna stealing our resources. They have to ask Baloch nation.
इस डेमोस्ट्रेशन का मेन मकसद है कि यहाँ बलूचिस्तान में पाकिस्तान ने चाइना के साथ बलूच वसाइल ख़ासकर सोना साहिल समंदर उस पर चाइना ने अपना गिरफ्त मजबूत किया और बलूचिस्तान के वसाइल को लूट कर बलूच कौम को उनकी अपनी ही सरजमीन में अक़लियत में तब्दील करने की कोशिश कर रहा है.
We are protesting against nexus between China and Pakistan. Pakistan have sold Baloch land to China, and we are protesting against China, not against China as a state, but we are asking China to stop cooperating with Pakistan and exploiting Baluchistan's national resources without the will of Baloch people. The resources there, they belong to Baluchistan and to the people of Baluchistan. They do not belong to Pakistan.
With Sanjay Suri in London, this is Vaibhav Verma for News 18.
It's a familiar thought, isn't it, that when it comes to rights and protests, people forget Gandhi. This week, many did not. It was the week for Gandhi Jayanti. But at the Kadwa Patidar Hall in London, Gandhi was remembered in unusual fashion. A meeting to commemorate Gandhi did not begin with any of his favorite bhajans as expected. It began with...
This was no bhajan, but the audience did not seem to mind. But the love song was followed by more familiar expressions of love for Gandhi as many stepped up to pay homage. Among them, visiting BJP leader from Delhi, Vijay Jolly. But the singing and dancing mood was soon back. And even some acrobatics from the elderly as their way of remembering Gandhi. And Gandhi's Gujarati origin surfaced when the music struck up a Garba beat. And since Gandhi's birth anniversary fell in the middle of Navratri, women stepped up to do the Garba. That Gandhi was himself not much of a Garba dancer is another matter. But in the end, there were also some words of praise for Gandhi.
He understood that above all else, British people often have that stiff upper lip, a sense of bloody-mindedness, that if you tell people to do something, they'll do the opposite. And he turned that against the British Empire and said, we're not going to put up with this, but we won't commit violence. We'll achieve our ends by peaceful means.
With Sanjay Suri in London, this is LV Elias for News 18.
We have this week the release in Britain of Mirziya, a takeoff on an old epic story where past moves seamlessly into present on horse and motorcycle. Karma Wangde takes us to the release in London.
Celebrated filmmaker Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra's latest offering Mirziya had its European premiere at the 60th London Film Festival. The film is based on Punjabi folklore and has generated huge interest not just because of the director but also because of the debutants Harshvardhan Kapoor and Sayami Kher.
There was a huge sense of confidence and less of nervousness that is the right thing to do. That was the ask of the script as such, and that's how the characters have been written in the script, that which kind of drove me to both of them, and it's quite a new narrative, which means the way of telling the story, the way it's now out there on the screen. So it also with new actors there, it made everything just came together so well, and I'm glad we went that way. I'm glad all of us met and decided to do this film then.
Son of Anil Kapoor and brother of Sonam Kapoor, Harshvardhan claims there is no pressure on him because of his celebrated lineage.
I think he cast me especially because I'm not affected by my lineage, as opposed to talking about it. We never really talk about it. Yeah, Rakesh sir and I don't really talk about it. I in fact talk about it with some other directors. Like, this is the first time I'm saying this, but when I was talking to Vikram about Bhavesh Joshi, at that time he felt that he would not want to do it because he didn't want to take up that responsibility. Because he felt that because of the kind of film that it is also, it's about a common guy and, you know, stuff like that. So he felt like some directors feel the weight of the responsibility because that first film only happens once, you know.
The actors went through a rigorous process to prepare for their roles.
Both Harsh and I play a double role in the film. So it's like we have done 2 films in our first film. And life was made much simpler because of Rakesh sir, because we shot the contemporary portion. Then we had like a 4-month break. And then we shot the folk tale of Mirza and Salman. But the prep for me was from the auditioning days where it started as we both learned how to horse ride together there. He went in a month before me. So learned how to ride the horse, learned how to ride a bike. I did actually just remember that a little bit of flamenco, which I learned for the film, which we never ended up shooting. Okay. But it's just that it gave us so much opportunity to learn so many different things.
Both Sonam Kapoor and Anil Kapoor were present at the premiere of the film to show their support. The film also includes some international names like British actor Art Malik.
I think what attracted me was just to see if I could actually do a film in which I used my mother tongue. You know, to see if I could convince people that I can speak Hindi as well. So we'll see.
I'm very, very happy. I am very excited. I'm a bit nervous for my brother because it's his first film, but he's a phenomenal actor, and I'm excited that the world gets to see him and share. I'm so happy that our family gets to share my brother's incredible talent.
For the director, this film is synonymous with the positive change that he's seeing in the films coming out of India.
The country has turned now. The youngsters have come on the fore. Economy is on the upswing. In fact, is one of the only economies in the world which is on the upswing as such. Lots to do, a lot of ground to be covered. And so, again, I think we are experiencing this explosion of ideas and thoughts. And obviously the younger generation will come to the forefront and change things. And here are two of them right here in the room with us.
Mirziya is already out in the theatres. With Karma Wangdi in London, this is Vaibhav Verma for News 18.
We take a quick break in a minute and then a word about Brexit that we now know after the Conservative Party conference will be triggered early next year. Welcome back, and a chat now with C.B. Patel, editor of Gujarat Samachar, among very few Indians who does know Prime Minister Theresa May a little and who finds some optimism over Brexit that many do not. CB, the interest rates have been cut because a recession looms. All the economic indicators are down, the forecasts are down, and you are upbeat about Brexit. Why?
First of all, Britain historically thrives on challenges. Interest down by about 0.25%. To be honest, in reality, it is more psychological than affecting the economy.
But interest rates are a substantial factor.
They are in fiscal management, but there are other factors. Money is coming from foreign countries. Since the 23rd of June, almost 40 billion pounds have been invested to purchase large companies or investments. There are also property investment from Qatar and other countries, even China. And I think in the next 6 months, that's about as much 100 billion pounds. So I think, look, Brexit was more...
But the IMF, even the Bank of England itself, is rather gloomy.
Well, there is, of course, they have to be very cautious. Unlike me giving my opinion, the governor of Bank of England, IMF, has to be very cautious. I genuinely believe as a businessman.
But between your optimism and their pessimism, what should we focus on?
Something in the middle must be right also.
Well, not
but
necessarily.
I can tell you this thing. Our GDP rate has been reduced now. But look at other countries in the European Union. Most of them, including Germany, are doing much worse than this country. So Brexit is a problem, no doubt about it. It's more a psychological problem than in practice. That is my opinion.
You spoke of historical Britain. Can you really rely on history to pull you through that there is a historical graph that must by definition continue?
Say 100 years ago, there was a big debate about trade, free trade. When David Chamberlain wrote a book about it. I believe that that debate has moved on now. Britain joined the European Common Market, which became European Union, with all the good intentions. But British people, most of them are also very concerned about the free access of people. And that can create a lot of problems. And I think when I look back, we can't blame majority for doing what they have done.
You know, just before the vote on the 23rd of June, David Cameron and then Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, had visited Hindu temples to campaign for Remain. Surely they had indications that the Indian vote is going the Leave way, which it eventually did. Why?
I think, look, in that election, they realized that in many areas of Indian settlement, especially Hindus and Sikhs, a lot more votes went for Conservative Party than ever before.
But that's separate from Remain and Leave.
That is true, but there were a lot of concerns about the large number of people coming from Middle East, to Germany, for example.
You mean Indians had a concern over this?
Well, naturally. I mean, people live in this country, they read the British paper, they read the world news. In Germany, which was a very honorable thing, they almost accepted 1 million people. And between Christmas and June, look at so many incidents where people were not only not ungrateful, but they became rather be difficult. Now, this may be bad, good, I don't want to comment, but it does affect people's psyche.
But Indians themselves are originally migrants. And now that once you're here, you then oppose new migration. Isn't that a bit odd?
Well, people have written to us, we have published letters in Asian Voice and Gujarat Samachar. The Asian migration, Indian migration from East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and even Malawi was little different. They were trained in the British way of life because they were in colonies. They knew the British business. They have proven their track record with the British bank and financial institutions. So these new migrants coming, refugees, I won't belittle them, but they are different than the migration from East Africa or even Aden.
You know the new Prime Minister, Theresa May?
I've met her 3-4 times and I respect her enormously. I'm, to be honest, very happy that she is the Prime Minister rather than one or two other individuals.
From what you know of her and in ways you know her, what would you say about her policies in relation to India?
She's first of all very much in the middle. Some people
what does that mean?
Means economically, she is not geared to support only big corporations or people who are very well off. She is also concerned about people who are.
Well, so she said in her first speech, but what about India? What about relations with India? She was Home Secretary, that's a sensitive post.
First of all, remember, India is very fortunate. She has not spoken out greatly about India as such, but the way she has raised questions about Chinese penetration here in economy, in nuclear electricity generation, and also about the human rights in China in a very subtle way. That is good for India.
But the Chancellor of the Exchequer goes first to China, not to India.
So what? They sent Alok Sharma to India, business minister. He did a good job. They made a lot of discussion. Look, people go elsewhere because China has a big, and it was pre-arranged meeting. Remember, Chancellor went to China because it was arranged before the referendum also.
You know, this whole migration debate, it never gets away from two pillars, two very dubious pillars. One is race, the other is jobs. Do Indians feel their jobs threatened by migrants from the EU?
I am not expert into this, but what I think, it is much more than employment. Many Indians employ people from Eastern European countries, without doubt, in their shops, hotels, and other industries. Crime, I think, has affected some Indian people. Indians per se are very law-abiding. They are very ambitious. They are in education. Look at the statistics. So when people come from other countries in former Eastern Europe, and the crime and other things, sometimes in reality, sometimes exaggerated by the British media, it does affect people.
Well, all the Gujaratis I've met certainly seem to back Brexit. You, as the editor of the premier Gujarati newspaper, must have a view why they particularly wanted Brexit.
I said publicly that we must stay rather than leave because of many reasons. Because it's better to belong to a group of people than individuals. And there were doubts. But people who are living in this country for 20, 30, 40 years, who are more British than people realize, they also talk to their British friends, English friends. They know the history of this country. They know what happened to countries of Eurozone, though this country is fortunate not a part of Eurozone. So people had their own views, and most of them, I think, were intelligent views.
Well, but the vote has gone the way it did. It was a very close vote. Now that it has gone this way, what are the advantages that Indians can get out of this situation now?
Indians in India are going to be much more better off for 2-3 reasons. One, because Britain needs investments and technically skilled people. There will be some more favorable consideration of Indians coming to this country. Investment-wise, this country needs investment.
But you talk of more favorable environment for Indians visiting Britain?
Indians within Britain, to be honest, we are a survival community. We survive under the worst challenges. In the 50 years in this country, I have seen much more bigger problem on race, on intolerance, on economic depression. We are essentially, and I'm glad, but not that others should have it. It is actually, Indians have a much more comfortable base to look to the future than many other communities.
Well, but just after the vote, we saw a spike in attacks on people who are, let's say, non-white, people who are seen as foreigners, many of them certainly visibly from Commonwealth-like countries, Indians, Pakistanis, others. Does that look like a sign of welcome?
Well, look, it is not sign of welcome, it is sign of frustration. People are in this country, there are some people little less educated, little more intolerant, people who have not accepted. There are people in this country who have accepted us, who celebrate our involvement, but there are people who are not. And
how many?
I don't know percentage, but I think very small percentage. I think basically, remember, Britain is a very fair and democratic country, full of tolerance, and also they know that Indian community, whether Sikhs or Hindus or Tamils or Gujaratis or non-Gujaratis, and others also, many Pakistanis also, Bangladeshis especially, they are asset to this country.
You spoke of other advantages Indians will derive here from Brexit, such as?
First of all, I think our vote will be more respected. In a democracy, Indians are not vote bank like some other communities, but people will realize that look after the Indian interest if you want their vote. So that is one advantage. Second thing, I think Indians in this country, who are part of this country, I genuinely believe that in spite of the aberrations or stress and strain, overall, we can do as good as the overall Europe, economically speaking, than UK in the present circumstances.
You keep a very close eye on Indian businesses in Britain. What is the typical business profile? Which are the favorite businesses and how could those be impacted by Brexit?
There are several sectors where automatically Indians have been more concentrated. In the beginning it was ordinary Indians selling to Indians, then came newsagent shop, pharmacy shop, we are very active. Pharmacists are a very large percentage. Now pharmacy, both retail pharmacy, distribution, hotels, hospitality, real estate, care homes. I think Indians are not only selling bananas or corner shop, they are very much part of the British financial system.
Finally, when we speak of India and the new Britain, India will now export to a very small country. This country has become a very small market now. So whatever policies you may adopt, the market is now a small fraction of what it could have been otherwise as a part of. So the emphasis now, and we are seeing this already, India striking a new trade deal with the EU, those talks have begun. Where does Britain stand?
I think British-Indian trade is naturally smaller than EU-India trade. But then there are areas where Indians have been doing very well in this country. Similarly, in Germany and other countries, India is doing very well. I think both economies are going to be more complementary also.
We've seen the pound go the way it has. Is that a good sign or a bad sign for you and your businesses?
Well, my business, I am part of this country. So if this country has got cold, I will start sneezing. I can't help it.
Thank you very much, CB, for talking to us.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
A lot of us have been going round in circles over this whole Brexit business, but this is a week for happier circles. Happy Navratri, and stay with us here on News 18.